So welcome everyone. Those of you that don't know me, I'm David, and this is Hayden. So we are recording because we've got a heap of our members that have said, I can't make it on Thursday. We'd really love to hear this content. So we're just going to talk you through that, and then they get a chance to watch it later, as do you guys. So thanks for coming out. Has anyone read our blog that we sent out that sort of linked into this event? Anyone? Yeah, a few nods? Okay, great. So, come on in, Carol. So, the blog was really just this bit of a start on things, and one of the first things that we started talking about was about meal preparation, okay, and meal planning. And we sort of said in there that it's a great way to get started with your organisation. If you can plan better, then you've taken the first step in eating healthier, okay? So when we talk about Pilates a lot of the time, people don't necessarily come to us to lose weight. They're trying to often feel better, move again. But we're having more and more people say, well, what do I need to do from a nutrition point of view? So hence having this conversation tonight to start that. And without getting down into the super nitty gritty, and there's heaps of different, fad diets out there, and some things that work for some people and some things that work for others. And we can hopefully answer a couple of those questions tonight. But the really key things we wanted to talk about tonight were, what is meal preparation and what should I consider when I'm doing that? And what are macronutrients, which is the basis for Hayden's business, Macros on the Run, and the way that they do their meal design. So we're going to start off just by talking about those two things, and then we can open the floor for some discussion. Sound good? Cool. So let's just talk about meal preparation, Hayden. To you, what would you sort of say is the key thing with meal preparation for you, and maybe why you started the business to help people?
So I guess one of the main reasons why I started Macros on the Run was just seeing a lot of people, or a lot of clients out there, and a lot of guys under eating throughout their day and getting caught out throughout their day. So, we all know meal prep is probably not the most glamorous thing to do on a Sunday night or throughout the week. And then, throughout the day you might get caught on the road, or you might be caught at work, and you don't really have anything there just to grab. You haven't meal prepped, so you get caught out by, going to your local cafe, grabbing something that's probably not the best choice. Might be kids pick up time, so you just make a bad choice, get the kids hungry, grab them something to eat, and you just grab something. So I guess the meal prep was, having something there the next day or throughout the week that you can grab that's a healthy choice. And I guess one of the main reasons was creating meals that are going to give you nutrients across the board. So we'll get more into it shortly, but macronutrients, Macros on the Run, was making sure your meals have some carbs, proteins and fats in each meal, so you're not depleting yourself, but we'll touch more on that. But you're having some food there as you go throughout the week, so you don't make bad choices. And everyone knows if you prepare yourself for the next day, how much better you're going to be if you don't.
It's a really good point there, thinking about people that were undernourished, because if they forget to prepare, then they go out, they train or they work all day, and then they're going, gee, I'm really hungry now, and then they're choosing bad meal options. So, or having those long periods without eating. And, what's become popular recently is intermittent fasting. People think, oh yeah, I can go for long periods, that's going to work for me. It works for some people, it doesn't work for everyone. So what meal prep really is, and Hayden sort of touched on it there, it can be the Sunday night you prepare for the week ahead, and in our blog we talked about that's one option to do it. At our household, we do it the night before. When we cook dinner for us and our kids, and we prepare for the next day. What are we going to eat all through the day? That includes our breakfast, that if I'm working early, I've got all my things to keep going, because I'm someone that needs to eat constantly to keep my energy up, and my wife's the same. Kids seem to be the same as well. I think maybe it's just the kids, but so that's what works for us, to try and get into those habits of having that, because we've certainly lived it. If we haven't got the things in the fridge, in the pantries to choose, we're then craving, and that's when those cravings come in, okay? So that's just a habit, okay? And I think the thing when you come back to healthy eating, it's forming good habits, okay? So for us, that's a habit that works for us. Doesn't have to work for everyone. Hayden talks about people that will do it often on a Sunday or a Sunday night, and they plan the whole week out because that's easiest. It may be more time efficient to do it that way for them. Because at the end of the day, we're not asking you to spend more time than you normally would, okay? But you might do it in a bigger chunk of time to get more meals set out, okay? So if you've got the time, you can do that. Or there's businesses out there that you can purchase those things and then go, right, I'm going to use that for lunch and use that for dinner. You still need to have those little snacks that are going to be the things in between. And again, we talk about these things, not letting that railroad you, i.e. I've got to go out, I've got an event, I've got someone's birthday, or gee, I didn't prepare and I've got to rush and pick up the kids here. It's making sure that you've got all these things in place to go, well, what are my healthy options going to be? Does that all make sense? For a start, yeah? So has anyone out there got any habits that they're doing at the moment that's working from them from a healthy eating point of view that they want to share? Or is that exactly why we're here tonight, to go, hey, it's not working at the moment, yeah? Okay, no? Do you want to share those, mate?
Does everyone here take a conscious look into what they're eating here? Yeah, very good. Or is there people in the room that you do get caught out, on the run where you might grab something bad? Is that something you guys can relate to? Who here does do meal prep each week?
Yeah.
Cool.
What was that? No?
I do, but not each week.
Right.
Yep.
So what, it changes week to week depending on what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and like I touched on before, meal prep's not really a glamorous thing. Whenever you do it, it is a little bit time consuming where you are in the kitchen, planning your meals. But I guess what I was trying to say before is, if you can spend a bit of time to be conscious of where you are for the next day. If you're in an office for the whole day, is there anyone who's in the office for the whole day sitting down? Not really. Guys doing kids pick up and stuff like that. It's about knowing where you're going to be for each meal. So for example, if you're at home for breakfast, breakfast is very important. You can't really, you don't want to skip those meals, you don't want to skip any of those meals. So making sure you get breakfast in before you start your day, and then going, all right, so around midday, where am I going to be? Do I need to take something on the road with me? So a piece of fruit and some nuts or something like that. And I'll touch more on why in a sec, but then you've got to go, okay, where am I for lunch? Am I back home for lunch? Do I have meals there ready to go? Afternoon tea, around the 4 o'clock time. Who gets hungry around 4 o'clock? This is one of the reasons why I've created the Macros on the Run, because spending a lot of time with people and clients that were the same as everyone in this room. You've got kids, busy lives, would do the best they can to eat healthy, but not really understand what they should be eating. Get to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's not quite dinner, so you don't want to eat something too much. It's after lunch, so drive-throughs look good. This is where probably most people slip up, is the 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, school pickups and stuff like that. And a lot of you have just raised your hand, so it's about going, okay, where am I going to be 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock tomorrow? Just consciously the night before. And you go, cool, what can I have? And
You can't heat meals up at that time, so that's why, and I think with COVID now that some of us are working from home more, we can now start to plan out. It may be easier to go, right, I'm at home at that time, I'll then make extra so I can reheat it. Oh, okay, no, I can't do that, there needs to be more of a wrap or something else. And so again, it's just being conscious. You guys are already making a great first step in doing more exercise and more movement. How do we take that next step and going, right, I want to eat well more often? And you don't have to do it all the time, but it's trying to avoid some of these, slip-ups where we can. And jumping forward to one of the other things we mentioned in the blog was, hey, if you do have a slip-up, the key is get over it. It's cool. We're all human. We're not in this for beating ourselves up about that. It happens. Go to the next day and jump straight back on that wagon and go, right, how can I be better from today on? Yeah, it's the same if you've had a bad week and not trained. Often, hey, getting back onto it, getting into that routine again, and the same with your eating, that meal preparation. Okay, that didn't work. Having that self-reflection at the end of the day to go, that didn't work. I didn't take enough food, or that wasn't the right food. I didn't get filled up. Maybe I'll eat that earlier and eat that a bit later on. Be be that reflective of yourself, I think, is a good thing to do. Yeah. Well, do you want to take us through a bit more about explaining macros now,
Yep.
and how you've maybe come to some of the formulas when you're thinking about the foods that you put together and why, and then how that works for people that train like we all do. Yeah.
Yep. So does anyone here know what macros are? Calories. Everyone's heard of the calories. So calories is obviously energy, and everyone's got a different calorie intake that they have throughout the day. But macros is just a little bit deeper than that, all right? So macros is essentially carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, all right? So they're your three macronutrients. And basically to get calories, you times your carbohydrates by 4. So if you're at about 1,500 calories, just an easy number, but you need a certain amount of carbohydrates, you times that by 4, protein by 4, and fats by 9. And that generally works out where your calories sit. So rather than going, this might be a little bit over the head at the moment, but I'll just explain it. So calories is there, but you can get calories anyway. So you might get 1,500 calories all from proteins and fats, and your carbs could be down here. But you need your carbs to fuel your body as well. So what we basically do, we create meals that have carbs, proteins, and fats in the specific requirements for what you guys need. But, and that will get you to your calories. Does that make sense? So calories is carbs, proteins, and fats. All right?
So where do you get the
deeper
1,500 from, if you just pluck that as a number?
No, so everyone in this room will have a different number.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of factors that can affect that. And knowing where you sit is a really good way. So the way we kind of get that, your age affects it, your height, your weight, your body type. There's the things that can affect that number. Also, your activity levels throughout the day can affect that. So how active are you throughout the day? Are you sedentary at work, or are you someone that's a school teacher up and about? These can affect how much energy you burn through the day. All right, so what we do, for example, my company, Macros on Run, when you order, we give you a call, we ask those couple of questions. We get an understanding of where you should kind of be in terms of each meal, what you should be eating, all right? Because one thing we have seen is a lot of people are under eating. We spoke about that before, but depleting themselves are trying to lose weight. So not eating enough food. And I always try to use the car analogy. If you drive a car around on a empty fuel tank, like Kira does sometimes, and this makes me feel it up. But you can think of it like spluttering a little bit. Same as your body. If you're not fueling your body to the right macronutrients and calories, then you're going to be spluttering around a little bit. All right. So, and they're the factors that can affect that. So does anyone know roughly where they should sit on their terms of calories or anything like that? Has anyone done that sort of stuff? Cool. So there's a number there for you. And obviously we can work that out through those type of things there.
Okay, so let's go through an example of that.
Yep.
So if we were to pick a person, you're putting your hand up to be a person. All right, let's use Kira as an example who's here. So, okay, explain how you've come up with that for her then.
Yep. So we're taking Kira's height, Kira's weight, what activity level she's doing. Obviously, her age will factor into that. And then she'll get a certain numbers of calories that she will get for the day, how much she would burn.
Yep.
And then also a big factor is what are your actual goals? So for Kira, is that weight loss? Because obviously weight loss, you're going to want to be burning less calories than you're taking in, all right? Energy in versus energy out. Has everyone heard that? Yep. So if Kira's on body maintenance, we'll get her a number that she would try and hit. For body maintenance, you want to be hitting around your number of carbs. And if you're trying to bulk up, you want to take in more energy than what you burn.
Okay.
All right. So I wouldn't be able to I'd be able to enter that into the thing, give Kira a number. So roughly Kira would be around 1,600.
Right.
All right. And that's actually a lot of food. So I really see a lot as a lot of under eating. All right. So to get that number and to still, for example, lose weight, you actually got to eat more than what you think. Has anyone ever done that? Done a plan where they've actually stuck to their plan. They're like, wow, I'm eating a lot of food, but you're actually fueling your body in the right way.
I used to go to a nutritionist,
Yep.
but the plan is to try to put on weight.
Yep.
So I normally eat a lot anyway, but
Yep.
with the plan it was like
Too much food,
too
or
much,
yep.
like crazy.
And it's so like our society, for some reason, likes to deplete ourselves. So a lot of us out there undereat. Is anyone feeling like in this room that they undereat? Or some of you overeat? Yep. So there's a few overeaters. So overeaters can be a certain different timing of foods. You might be eating some foods at the wrong times. So for example, dinner time might be a heavier, carbier meal before bed. Probably not ideal. But yeah.
So choosing the meals, you might be having the right calorie count, but you may be loading up a bigger meal at night when maybe the bigger meal should be in the morning.
Yeah, so timing of carbs. Yeah, so if weight loss is always an easier one to explain. So weight loss, really making sure you're getting some good carbs in the morning, fueling yourself for breakfast. Obviously, I've always said that's important. Morning tea, so really good options for morning tea, some fruit, pairing some nuts with that. And then lunchtime, getting some good carbs, some brown rice, some sweet potato, something like that at lunch to keep you sustained. And then around 4 p.m, you can start to taper off a little bit of those carbohydrates. And I'm a really big one on dinner time. So dinner for me and for my guys, I always say, is probably the most important meal of the day.
Yeah.
All right, so trying to keep your protein levels up at dinner time, pairing that with something that's a little bit lower in carbs before bed. Something that's not quite as heavy.
So is that because protein at night time is when your body resynthesizes and recovers, I suppose, from all the daily load that we've had? So having that at that time.
Definitely.
Okay.
So when you guys are working out in Pilates and lengthening your muscles, or working out in the gym, you're tearing your muscle fibers and stuff like that, lengthening your muscles. You want to actually recover as well. So protein is going to be very important at that. So at dinner time, getting a good amount of protein. You want protein in every meal.
Yeah.
But dinner time is very important as well.
So coming back to the example of the calories, so then come back to the macros part. So how do you break down 1,500 calories to get the number of how much carbs, fat and protein, and then how do you get that to, how much rice do I have? How much sweet potato do I have? How much broccoli? How much fish? What is it? Yeah.
So that's the fun part, working out your portion size. So I might just I'll grab my calculator, thanks you. You might be able to see this. So, for example, this is me, so I know where my numbers are. So I'll have 220 grams of carbohydrates, all right?
And you've got that how? Where did you get the 220?
So that's from my height, my weight, my goals,
the
my
calculator
age. Yes, the calculator that we use. All right, 880. I'll have about 160 grams of protein, times that by 4. Plus 880. 1,500, and then my fats are around 45 times 9. So there's about my calories, all right? So my carbs, proteins, and fats have been added up to equal that, all right?
Now that macronutrient ratio, why is it that ratio that you're doing?
The 449?
Yep.
That's basically just what they've worked out, a carbohydrate times 4 has that many calories in it.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so that's just what they've worked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what have you found with that split of that to then put into your meals to give you
so
people to either lose weight or to maintain?
We do lunch and dinners only, and we've got some breakfast options as well, but we mainly do lunch and dinners. So, for example, if someone was to order, we'll give them a call, find out some information about them, mainly their goals, their height, their weight, stuff like that, work out some numbers, and we'll go, cool. We've got some options for breakfast that they should be eating, so a whole range of breakfasts, morning teas, and then we'll work out what the balance of their lunches should be, all right? And then their afternoon tea and their dinners will be what we make to them. So for us, we're trying to tailor our meals as much as possible to you guys from that information that we've got. But yeah.
So if I said to you, I'm going to have a protein shake, I'm going to have a yogurt bowl in the morning and some fruit, then you roughly know what those are. Again,
exactly,
it's not complete direct numbers, but it's thereabouts, right? and you'll figure out the rest to say, well, this is going to be the right
Yeah, exactly.
meal.
It's not going to be exact, but it's going to be what works
As close as possible.
Close as possible, yeah.
Okay.
And just for like a bit of a general split, so if you think of your meals, if you're looking to lose weight, roughly between 25 to 30 grams of carbs at lunch, around the same for protein, and under 10 grams of fat in your meal for lunch. For dinner, like I said before, you'd probably drop your carbs a little bit to under 10. All right, so that's being mindful of your portion sizes of whatever you're having for dinner. There's some really good options out there now, like you would have seen the zucchini zoodles, cauliflower rice. There's something you can substitute your carbs for, get your protein levels up, and then obviously being mindful of your fats
Does that
as
help
well.
bolster the meal so
Yeah.
those that are feeling like they're under eating, they can have a bigger portion size but without the calories?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And taking a few of the calories out before bedtime, like you still want to fuel your body with your protein, but just making it a little less heavy, I guess. So, those zoodles are really good. There's a couple of different options now. There's some has anyone seen like the edamame beans and stuff like that? There's 0 to 2 grams of carbs in that, but you stir it into some nice mince and it actually becomes like a nice pasta meal. You've just taken the carbs out. Easy options, zucchinis. Swirl them if you've got a twirler. Use that as your pasta, all right? Rather than having something that's heavy before bed, and you might have a little bit of pasta for lunch rather than dinner. But I'm not saying always do that. Like a Friday night you want a pasta, perfect. If not every single day you'll be spot on, but just being mindful of those types of things.
Yeah, which I suppose takes us to that 80-20 rule that we talked about in the blog, that when you're where you want to be, 80-20 rule works really well for you, because do the right thing most of the time and then you got that 20% chance to eat out, have a cheap meal, get caught out, it's okay. But if you're on a desire to get to a certain place, then maybe you need to be a little bit more stringent during this period. Otherwise, it's going to be harder to get to that goal, or maybe it's going to take you longer to get to that goal. So it just depends how important that goal is to you. And if you have a bad day, get back on the wagon, or, what's it going to mean if you don't get to your goal in that time? One of the things we do when we do our privates is ask some of our clients, when do you want to see this goal by? And it's something you should be asking yourself, if that is a goal that you want to get to a certain weight or a certain shape, change a few things around. Am I going to get there by that period? If I don't get there, what does that mean for me? Am I going to be upset? Do I just go, it's all right, another month on top of that's going to be fine. So keep those things in perspective when you're thinking about how dedicated you are and what the 80-20 rule means, and that's what we're talking about in the blog. All right, I want to sort of pick up back on this macros piece and see if everyone's making sure we're all understanding that. So using the scenario, you've got 2,000, you're saying Kira's about 1,500. You've got to spread that across your meals. Again, that's an assumption that we're all eating lots during the day, which, as I said, it works for me. There's people that can do intermittent fasting and can eat twice a day and it really works for them. So it's not as easy as us telling you what's going to work for you. It's probably individually, like Hayden says, their business. They talk to people, every single one. It's not just do this. One size doesn't fit everyone. So, we need to certainly work through that with people. But let's get back to this macros part. So we've got that amount of calories. I've got this breakdown in however much grams. How do you even start to think, right, how much salmon is that? How many heads of broccoli? How many carrots is that? Are you weighing everything? Like, is there simpler ways of doing it? What have you found?
I think weighing can get quite tedious, but it's kind of a good way to know what your portions are. I'm not saying you need to weigh, but for a few different foods, you might want to know how much you're eating. There's a good few examples which are very rich in macronutrients. So, for example, if you're having a cereal or a muesli, you can get caught out quite easily. So just knowing how much 50 grams is, you might need to weigh it once, just get a little look, okay, that's 50 grams. Because I know when I first, about 10 years ago, I went in, when I started working here, I was like, yeah, I'm having 50 grams. I actually weighed it, and I was having about 150. I knew it was out, but you know what I mean? Just getting an idea of how much you're having for that. The other things are probably rice. If you have much rice, getting an idea of how much 60, 80 grams of rice is, how much if you guys are eating meat or fish. Trying to get a bit of an understanding of how much you're actually having can go a long way with that sort of stuff. Not saying weigh everything, but if you buy some meat and you buy a cut and you go, cool, it's 200 grams of salmon. I'm going to have two in 100 gram servings, but then you go, okay, cool.
And is it in the cooked weight or is it in the bought weight?
They do both. We've got like an app that does. We prefer to do off the cooked weight.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you get, for example, a cut of meat and you've added some stuff to it, obviously the numbers are going to go a little bit up. But yeah, if you're going to go, the ones, if you buy a meat or some mince, that'll be off what's in the packet before cooked. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any questions in regards to that? Is everyone kind of picking up that okay? So yeah, those are probably the foods that I'll be mindful of. Sweet potatoes are a really good food, the GI factor.
So the GI factor, does people understand what that is? A glycemic index, yeah? So how much sugar content is in that food. So we're looking for foods that have got a lower GI, more sustained energy through the day. So picking those options with your vegetables is the ones to have. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much it on that. So
yeah. So I think I'm still trying to get my head around some of these numbers because there's lots of numbers there. So you've got those macros that they will work out and give you a calculation. So if you want to learn a bit more about that, I'm sure Hayden will share and get a number for each of you guys. And then it's going, right, I've got that number. How am I going to break that down per meal? And that's where he's saying, right, you've got a number for carbs. That number should be probably declining throughout the day. So you've got your smallest amount. You've still got to do the total amount of your carbs, and you should be doing all of our macros in every meal. All right, and that's probably the key message with macros. Yeah.
And if to keep it simple, a lot of people, there's some people that will go and look at their calories and go right into it and count it. You don't even really need to do that. Like if you were to, it is good to know your number if you want to go a little bit deeper. But if you were just to go, eat quite regularly with protein at each meal, lunch and dinner, obviously keeping your dinners a little bit leaner, but eating consistently throughout the day, you'd go a long way to getting the results you wanted. To keep it on a simple level, like if you're someone that is depleting your body, not eating, consistently or frequently enough, then you're going to be, depleting your body of what it needs. And then if you want to go deeper into it and you can start to learn more of the numbers side of things, you can go deeper too. But if you were to keep it quite simple and go, I'm going to wake up, have a breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, dinner, keep it all healthy foods, focus on dinner time, keep it really, like we spoke about before, a little bit lighter, leaner. That would go a long way just to keeping that consistent. You'd get some good results that you're after from that, rather than going deep into it and actually numbers doing your head in a little bit.
So it depends where you're at. What is your goal? Are you here just to maintain where you're at? If you're wanting to make a bigger jump, then I think, looking deeper into this, and as Hayden said, you don't necessarily need to live by the scales every time, but as soon as you start to be aware, actually, that is 50 grams or that's 100, and you might have been overeating or not eating enough, because those are the two biggest problems, I think, in this scenario. And if you are feeling like in your scenario it's too much food, it's like, well, we need to try and look at a way that we get more energy dense foods that can increase your calories to go up but not have as much actual portion size. So it's a detailed world, and and I suppose the key message is if you plan and prepare for it as easy as possible, then that's going to be your first step in going, right, I've got 5 meals to get through. They all need to be like this. If I can get that regularly happening and do that 80% of the time, I'm on my way. Okay, if that's not enough for me, I need to go deeper. Let's spend some time into it. And then over time, it's a bit like exercise. You get in, create that habit. And then over time, you've learned a whole lot about yourself. You can get into a sort of cycle of maintenance and just work through those. Yeah?
And there's some good apps out there now. MyFitnessPal, everyone would have probably heard of that. If you do want to go a little bit deeper, you don't have to do it religiously all the time, but it's like, I want to know what's in that food. You can pretty good now. They've got a barcode. You just scan it. and it will go carbs, protein, fats, calories. If you want to go a little bit deeper and start to learn some things that you're not quite sure of, there's a really good way just to go, oh, cool, that's that, recognise it. And as Dave said, continuing to learn, and then you can kind of put into practice what you're learning. Same as training.
Yeah. All right, any questions out there that people want to throw to us, or anything that they're finding? Matt?
You mentioned a lot about proteins.
Yep.
You have proteins in each meal. What if you're a vegetarian?
Yep. So,
So the question was, just in case everyone didn't hear that, so yeah, if you're a vegetarian, how do you get your proteins effectively? By not eating meats. Yeah.
yeah, so exactly, like, there's a lot of good options out there now. You actually, being vegetarian or pescatarian, so it's probably got a little bit more planning towards it. Even again, you probably notice you got to plan your meals a little bit better. But there's some really good ways of getting protein in. You know, you've got tempeh, chickpeas, lentils and stuff like that. Bulking that with some good greens, some spinaches, stuff like that, which you're probably already eating. But it'd be probably more so throughout your day, working hard to get protein in some form at every single meal. So if you're having 5 meals for the day, working out some stuff that you can do to, you know, for breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea, getting protein in each meal. So whether that's, you know, like I said before, chickpeas and all that sort of stuff, adding it into a meal, and you might have that twice throughout the day just to get your protein up, because it is a little bit harder to get your protein levels up, but there's definitely ways to do it. So
ways I find for me, because I'm generally pescatarian and have been vegetarian at times, little protein balls, so I use those as a snack, and you can get all those that are based off plant-based things. Having a protein shake, that's again, you know, a vegan-based one. Having things like chia seeds, and I make them. Some of you guys might have seen me eating those of the morning. I have those with coconut yogurt and nuts and other selections that are going to give me some there. And I'd come from someone that was always having lots of protein, and it was a big part of what I did. So I've found that I've got greater alertness from those type of foods, and it seems to be enough. I haven't felt depleted from it. But again, the point comes back to I've got to try and look at making that happen in every meal. And if I just had 3 snacks that were fruit, that's not going to be enough for me. So, yeah.
And one thing you touched on, the protein shake, that's a really good way of that's a supplement, obviously. Who here has protein shakes throughout the day? Yep. So I tell all my guys 4 o'clock or 3 to 4 o'clock every day, protein shake. All right, purely, it's a time that we spoke about before. It's a dangerous time where you might snack. Pretty much use it as a filler. One, it's also going to be good for you if you're training, recovering. Obviously, if you've done a workout, you want to try and take your protein supplement within half an hour of your training. So when you guys are doing Pilates, keep that in mind. You might want to have a protein shake within half an hour. All right, really good after a workout. But then I also tell my guys 4 o'clock every day. If you're on the road, you got to take it with you. You know, you can have your protein in a thing, and you just add water. 3 to 4 o'clock every day, have your protein shake. It tricks the mind into feeling like I've had something to eat. If you're in a rush, then you get something into your body that's going to fuel you a little bit. But it's a really good way to, if you are vegetarian, to get those protein levels up.
I find for me, what I do if I'm feeling hungrier, I'll have more water with it. That'll make me feel fuller at the time. Comes back to where am I going to be? So tomorrow I'm not teaching anywhere, so I probably won't have a protein shake that day, just because that's what I have on the other days when I'm able to shake and have it on the run. Oh, I'm at home, okay, I'm going to have some tofu. I might eat that with, you know, whatever else that I'm having with, or whether it's something if you choose to have eggs, depending which way you sit on that one. Whereas that's not as easy to do on the days that I train unless they're hard-boiled and do it that way. So, you know, it's pick and choosing, you know, again, where you're going to be, because I'm sure some of us, it's Groundhog Day, we're at the same place every day, it's the same way. If we've got that capability that it's going to change from time to time, then plan some of those meals around so you get that variety, I'd suggest. Has that answered you enough? Okay. Cool. What else? Any other questions on healthy eating that we could debunk or answer for you that's relevant?
When it comes to protein, there's this concept that meat has more of it than vegetarian options. How do you know if you are having vegetarian options that you're having enough?
Well, generally speaking, yeah, the meats and that, the chickens and that do have a higher protein content per, a serving. Like we said before, it'd just be trying to find your foods and having good amounts of them. So you might need a little bit more of the protein that you're choosing to have, because they are generally a little bit lower. You've got to be a bit more planned in it, but maybe getting a little bit more of your portion sizes up, but then also back to that frequency, getting your regularity in your protein intake is very important. So you might need a little bit more if you can handle a little bit more, but bulk it up with some of the stuff that's got protein in it.
I'd say as well that it's not going to be perfect on day one, that you may need to build to that. So you might have felt initially, I can't eat that much of those to get that protein content out. If you can't do it on day one, it's over time you might have to get into a bit of a habit so that those numbers can go up, and look for other food groups that could complement it to try and not just get it all from one source at that time. That might help you get those numbers up. But lots of arguments around, meat and protein for sure as to it, and it certainly is harder for people that are vegetarian to do that. It's a bit like getting their iron count out. It's harder, but you've got to try and figure out the way. If that's what the way you're going to eat, then you've got to look for those other sources of getting your iron, other ways of getting that protein, and it may not be as easy, but it can be done.
And next time you go shopping, have a look at the what you're kind of using for protein sources, have a look at the packet, have a look per 100 grams of what it says in there, and then just, over time recognise, okay, 100 grams, that has that amount of protein. I might need to go 150, I might need to add a supplement in there or something like that. But just, get a feel for it. Use the app if you want it, and there's just the MyFitnessPal, just open it up, scan it, and go, okay, cool, that's got that much protein in it. And then you'll, next time you'll know, and then, so for that. Do you take a supplement at all, or no, just through eating? Cool.
Yes, I think the difference between this and just doing straight calories is if you've got a number and you're only eating to that calories, sometimes historically people have had too much carbs or too much protein and they've forgot about the other macros. So the point that we're making here is you need to still have a balanced amount. Then the calorie number might be the same, but it's making sure that you're getting those key food groups evenly represented, because that's how you're going to get the most and the best energy sustained, and not feel like you're under eating or overeating from it. So again, it's understanding that, learning that, having that experience of that. If you're where you want to be right now, maybe it's not as important, but there's a lot of people that are on the run and feel like that, they need. And so this is coming back to prepare your meals. If you're struggling with that and don't have time, there's solutions like Hayden's company that's out there that can prepare 1 or 2 meals a day or even more. That'll help you get there. You're still going to need to find some of those other snacks to pair that together. And it doesn't have to be forever. It can be something that's going to help you learn and get into that good habit yourself. Bit of a summary, I think. Anything else to add to that? Any other questions, people?
What was the name of that app?
MyFitnessPal.
MyFitnessPal, yeah. So it's just a
PAL, P-A-L. Like your
it's
buddy.
just a free one, isn't it? That you can anyone can log on to.
Yeah. I think it's American with that word. Yeah. My pal. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Carol.
Any idea of snacks that you would have during the day?
Yep. So, morning tea snacks, really good. Fruit is going to be a really good one. I always say fruit's a good one to pair with, some almonds, some raw almonds or something like that. There's some good muesli bars out there now, like the Carmen's ones, if you don't like those. There's some, Crustkits, Rivita. You can add some cottage cheese, ham, tomato is a really good one because it's quite versatile. You can add some ham on it. I think, did I say ham already? Yeah. You can add tuna. They're quite versatile.
Depends again if you're preparing that. If you're at home, you can prepare those things versus something that you're going to need that sort of, crack open a bar, add your protein to a drink. Those little protein balls, I think that they've worked for me at the moment. They're a great little one with, a handful of almonds, walnuts, that sort of stuff.
You can even get the raw nut mixes or a boiled egg or something that you might do a couple the night before. Take 2 with you. Pretty much that.
The chia pod thing, I find that whether that's a breakfast thing, but adding the fruit, that could be a snack at any time doing that way. Or if you're finding that you've made that meal from the night before, it doesn't have to be as a big lunch. You might choose that you want to break that into 2 smaller portions, and you have one that as a morning tea and you have the other half later. Okay, it might be a bit boring of eating the same thing twice, but hey, it was easier and maybe that's saved you time from a meal prep time. Again, what's the most important thing for you?
With muesli bars, there's a lot of sugars in them, and that's what we try to avoid.
Yeah, so it'd be definitely ones with higher sugar. Normally I say the ones with the fancier packaging are going to be the ones that catch you out with a little bit more sugar. There are some that got a little bit lower content of sugar. Some of the Carmen's ones are a bit more dense with a bit more fat. But yeah, if you're on the run, it's not necessarily the worst option, but there are some that are going to catch you out with the sugar ones. So, the baked ones or the ones in you can normally...
The children's ones.
I always say they're probably the nicest, but they are a little bit higher in your carbohydrates and that. Carmen's, I do say that a little bit, but a little bit more dense. They do have some carbohydrates in them and a bit of sugar, but in terms of in comparison to another one, they're a lot better option.
When you're looking at those, does everyone know when you're looking at those packets how to establish how much sugar you've got in them? So if you turn it over and look at the packet, and you'll have a carbohydrate total and you'll have a sugars, okay? And you're looking for that. If it says that it's got 80 grams of carbohydrate and 76 of those are sugars, you're like, that's basically pure sugar in that bar. That's a chocolate bar. I don't want to have that. I'm more looking for the one that's 80 grams of carbs and it's down at 17 or 15 grams of sugar. So it's that ratio. That's bringing that GI, glycemic index, down lower. So that's what you want to be looking for every time you're looking at those packets. Simple way to do it. It's probably the easiest way to choose it. But yeah, again, finding out what works for you, finding one that you like is obviously a key. If it's me, I know that it's good for me, therefore I'll just eat it. Whereas I had a client in the other morning that I trained at Burley Studio. She's just like, oh, great, I had my muesli. It was just like eating cardboard. And I'm like, okay, what have you tried these other options? And I'm like, to me, the one that I have is delicious. But it's getting your head around the fact that I know that's good for me. Have it a few times, get used to that. And she'd only just started coming off alcohol, sugar, so all of a sudden I think things that appear untasteful, if you've got all these other things that you are consuming, it's harder to enjoy natural raw fruit and veg, nuts, and appreciate those tastes. So if you are struggling with that, I urge you to stay at it, know that it's good for you, and over time you'll actually find those things will become more and more delicious to have. That's how I've felt. You may be different, but it worked for me. Yeah. Kira.
I like treats at night time. What is some good options?
So some of your better options for treats, if you like a bit of a sweet tooth and you like your chocolate, going for the darker ones are definitely a better option. The 68% or the 98% or whatever they are, a darker
Cacao,
option is going to be better. Obviously, it is what I call a bit of the danger time when if you do go bored with the sweets, it's probably not ideal, but creating something you like. So it could be a little bit of a nice yogurt. Sometimes if you got like a chocolate protein powder shake, you can sprinkle that in with some berries. It's probably not as good as what do they call those things?
The Magnums, the ice cream.
Maxi Bonds. Maxi Bonds, they're the theme of the day lately. But yeah, so it might be, improvising a little bit. Dave's mentioned the protein balls as well. They're a really good snack to have. You might only have one or two. Really take your time with it, savor it, have a glass of water. But you might have a smaller amount, but it does what it needs to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah. You mix that in with other things, break it up, and then have it with the yogurts and the blueberries. And again, depends. If you're in a point where you're trying to get somewhere, then you need to try and rule that stuff out for a period of time, and then you bring that in following that 80-20 rule and going, hey, it's Fridays, that's my day when I'm going to have that, or no, I really need it tonight. Cool, have it, get over it, and then the next day, get back in your training and don't have it that next day. But if you can probably feel fuller, eat more consistently, be better planned, then maybe you're going to need less of those of a nighttime, because that's maybe a craving that comes in for a reason that your day's been inadequate for some reason.
Yeah. That's one thing I probably want to touch on, is a reason why the consistency of meals for a lot of people out there is keeping your blood sugar levels steady, all right? So if you're depleting yourself and you miss a meal, your blood sugar levels will slowly drop down, all right? So you want to try and keep them in a nice steady range. If you deplete yourself with missing some meals, it's when you start to feel the cravings. We've all been there. We haven't eaten for 3 or 4 hours. We're like, damn, just give me anything. And it's normally something sweet or something savory. You go either way. And then you make a bad choice, you actually spike yourself back up over here. So, you know, when you're feeling like you're going up and down and stuff like that. So that's why the 5 to 6 meals consistently is quite well. You know, have a good breakfast, keeps you steady. Morning tea sort of moves you along through that channel. All right, it's one of the really good ways of keeping yourself. Like you said, you probably, if you are eating more food, you're going to be less likely to actually feel like a snack, or you have a small amount of a snack. Dinner's a really important one. Dinner, like Dave said before, you have a dinner, a healthy dinner, have a glass of water, have a protein shake. You know, two protein shakes a day is not a bad thing. You fill yourself up, and then you go, oh, I actually don't feel like that snack anymore, or I might save that for Saturday night. You know, you want to live too, have Saturday night, have 6 of the snacks, and then back on track Sunday, Monday.
Yep.
Because
Does alcohol count?
alcohol
Or
does
are they
count.
calories?
Yes. Alcohol does count. So alcohol is energy, all right? So energy in versus energy out. If you're someone that has a couple of drinks at night, you are intaking energy and you're going to bed afterwards, you're not burning off the energy. So you've got to be mindful of that. For probably the last 10 years, I've been working in weight loss, and across the board, if the guys that, no, I'm not saying binge drink at all, but if you have 1 or 2 a night, each night throughout the week, they're the ones that normally have a bigger effect if you have a couple just on the weekend, if that makes sense. So I like to give a little analogy. You know, 1 drink is equivalent in energy to, you know, 1.5 slices of bread. So if you have 3 drinks, would you have 6 slices of bread before bed? How would you, you know?
Your maths isn't very good, Hayden. 1.5 times 3 is 4.5.
He's a PT.
I am, can't count. But does that make sense? You wouldn't have that energy before bed. So it's finding ways to get around that too, because after a long day, what's your habit? You know, the kids are stressing you out, work's been stressful, you just want a red or something like that. But it's okay, for this next week, I'm doing the challenge. You might have a soda water, you might have soda water and lime. If you put it in your wine glass, it almost tastes the same. It doesn't. But yeah, alcohol can affect that, you know, in a big way as well. So it's just being mindful once again.
I think, you know, now that we've got all these 0 carb, 0 calorie drinks out there, you know, it may lead us down a path that you think that it's okay, but then it's that habit. Why are we needing that? So question that, and, you know, maybe it's to enjoy alcohol socially rather than at home. Again, depends on what you need at that particular time. So, yeah, reflecting about the food choices that you're having, thinking ahead, did that work for me? What things do I like? Yeah, but the same with exercise. Why do I like going to Pilates versus going running on the beach or a gym? All those things are good for us, just like all food's good for us, but choosing the ones that work for you best is going to be really important.
And if you do have a bigger night where you do drink a few wines and you go out with the girls along lunch, and then, you know, you blow your numbers out, that's not the end of the world either. We've spoken about the 80-20 rule. That's just being mindful. Cool, I had a really good time. The next day, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to try and get back on track quite quicker. The quicker you can get back on track, the better you're going to go. If your Saturday night turns into not the best choice for breakfast, you know, not the best, go to get something greasy for lunch, that's where you can really go back a couple of steps. So it's going, okay, I had an awesome time on a Saturday night, because we all like to live and enjoy life. Okay, Sunday's going to be, could even be being mindful of where you're going to be, have something there that you like in the fridge that's a better choice, and then we're going, okay, I had a slip up, not a slip up, well, I enjoyed life, and then the next day is going to be a better day. Yeah. Keeping that isolated, if you like.
So just to wrap up here, if people are interested in your macros products, macrosontherun.com.au, right, is your website.
Yep.
So I know you've got a special offer for our members, which we'll share with everyone. So can you just explain how that works,
Yep.
what the steps, and then how much it costs? And
So pretty straightforward. Just created like a little on checkout. You can Pilates and Co affiliation. So if you want to try some meals, like I said, guys that order, you'll get a phone call from me or someone in the team, just to get an idea of what you're trying to achieve with that. And then we'll work out some of the macros and the meals that you should be having. And yeah, for the guys, there's 2 offers there. There's 6 meals for $56, free delivery to wherever on the Gold Coast, as long as you're not too far up in the hills, and 12 meals for $99 as well. So
that's,
yeah,
that's
it's
the
an easy
weekly,
process. That's
the
12
weekly.
meals a week. So
Yep.
yeah, 6 or 12. Yeah, if you want to give those guys, yeah, one of the guys will call you and we'll...
And maybe, look, no pressure to do any of this stuff, but it may be something for you to go, oh, if I do that, what do those meals look like? Well, that's the sort of portion size. It might be a great cheap way to just to learn from him, and then you might actually go, okay, no, that's what I like. Oh, I've got a bad week coming up. Hey, I'll get some of those in for that week. It might help out with that. So again, if there's any questions that you want to take offline and hit either of us up tonight or me at any stage, feel free to yell out. Hopefully you've found what we've chatted about, somewhat got a couple of takeaways for you. And thanks so much for coming tonight.